We put a link in the description for everybody. And keep them handy, you're going to need them. The headphones. So this was within the first 14, 15 hours. But it was around 10 kilometers away from the Iran nuclear power plant. There's been a lot more bombs dropped since. There's 200 coalition, I guess United Kingdom's involved. Israeli and United States jets bombing Iran. And so the original opening salvo, they took out, according to the administration, the United States administration, they took out all of the key leadership in Iran. And so then the question is, why are they still bombing, city blocks full of civilians, if they already took out the key administration, the key leaderships? And they murdered all of those too on top of that, so they made it even more worse. Right, they turned them now into icons forever. I think Israel is also using a laser. I know they've used it before, but I think they're using that as a self-defense to take out incoming. They have a U.S. aircraft carrier. I think that's the newest one, is it? The station out front. We have a poll tonight. It seems the United States and Israel bombed and sacrificed 100 virgin schoolgirls. Could a nuclear site also get bombed? So the idea that is, if it was an accident, then it could accidentally bomb a nuclear site. If it wasn't an accident, it was a sacrifice, they could bomb a nuclear site. Then will Iran bomb the Dimona and the Israelis' nuclear bomb sites? Most likely. Did Russia and China provide a lot of technologies that Iran didn't have 9 months ago? Yes. And intelligence and satellite pictures, etc. That's all. That has to be weighed into all of this. The United States is a very powerful army, coalitions, of course. They have a seemingly endless supply of munitions. Israel couldn't exist without United States. So let's just talk about some of that stuff, because it's quite concerning, because it doesn't just affect locally, it affects everybody worldwide. So I think that warrants a deeper look into this so-called conflict. It's got a lot. There's a lot to appreciate. There's a lot to take in. So the Iran, Israel, United States, United Kingdom, we're talking about. And of course, there's a lot of unknowns out there, countries that are supporting both sides that we're unaware of. It's quite worrisome, because it affects any kind of a nuclear event there is going to contaminate the entire planet within about 20 days. Just let me touch upon that so I make sure that those who are not familiar with it can appreciate where we're rightfully concerned. We have every right to be concerned. And you have an obligation to be concerned, actually. Particularly if you plan on living past another day or two. Because ultimately this stuff shows up in your environment, in your water, in your food chain, in your air, in your filtration systems, which contaminates your filtration systems forever, by the way. So let me try to explain that. It's complicated sometimes if you don't know much. And we're unfortunately cursed. We know quite a lot. But I have a unique way to explain this narrative. And there's nothing easy about these conversations, unfortunately. You got a bunch of videos to get through. There's a lot going on. So let's get after it. Why is it always so difficult? There we go. So the International Atomic Energy Agency says nothing happened so far, but this is United Nations also says that these media, not just the journalists, but the media are actually on top of the building to your left, 150 feet above it. So it's pretty hard, which is Fukushima, so it's pretty hard, it's impossible actually to put any trust into the International Atomic Energy Agency. And put into consideration what Fukushima done. So officially they're on top of a building that doesn't exist. And the International Atomic Energy Agency has verified they're on top of a building that don't exist. So unless there's technology we don't know about. So in Tokyo, we can use Fukushima, right, as a measuring stick to what's going to happen in case of an accident or an event in Iran or Israel, or certainly anywhere else on the planet, for a nuclear power plant, for instance. And not counting the fuel pools, which are decades of reactor cores, that you need to put that into this equation. So 500 trillion atoms a kilogram of so-called radioactive glass, which is ionized, so-called ionized glass, neutron-bombarded glass, rained on Tokyo. So say 55 becquerels. Now a becquerel is a pulse of energy, and so a single atom will pulse energy every second. That's the becquerel, the pulse of energy. And it could do that every second for millions of years. So they call that a decay, but it doesn't decay for a billion years, rather. So it's a pulse of energy. You have to treat it not as the propaganda machine wants you to, the connotations they implant in everybody, but calling it a decay. These are not decays, these are pulses of energies. Right? If you're talking about a very short-lived isotope, it's still much more harmful, and still shouldn't be described as a decay. It's meant to make you complacent about the radioactive fallout. So 500 trillion atoms a kilogram, when it used to 55 would be an evacuation zone. Now, the whole planet got buried in Neptunium-239, which decays to plutonium-239 after 2.5 days. And there's 10 decays, so every decay is 50% of the isotope will decay to another isotope, which might be even worse than the original one. And in this case, Neptunium is 2.5 days, so 25 days later. These plumes are based on 20 days and 21 days of radioactive fallout from Japan's reactors that really, really did melt down. So there was also 1 million atoms of xenon-133, so you have absurd amount of Neptunium-239, absurd amount of plutonium-239. By the way, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes, not Neptunium, which is incredibly rough on everybody's hearts. And so if you've seen an increase of mortality events of heart attacks and autoimmune diseases post-Fukushima, guess what? So 1 million, so that's 3 isotopes. These are huge numbers, by the way. Iodine-131, there's 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more iodine-129. They all travel in the same plume, right? So they're all going to be in that same plume, along with zirconium, along with the Neptunium, which decays to plutonium, right? So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 131, 1, 2, 3, 131, 132, 133, 129. So the 132, 133 are 9 times more effective than the incredible iodine-131 is at ionizing and radiating the thyroid glands of all the species. So you got, let's try to keep track of it. You got confirmed, this is confirmed documentation of absurd amount of radioactive fallout. Neptunium, then by proxy, of course, plutonium, because it decays after 2.5 days. With plutonium's 239 is 24,000 year half-life, so it'll be long past the human experience. That's 3. I'm sorry, that's 3, counting the xenon at 1 million atoms. So when you see per square meter, you're talking about on the ground. So that's 3 isotopes. Then you got 131, 132, 133, 129 with a 15 million year half-life. The 132 and 133 are 9 times more effective the incredibly effective iodine-131. The 7 isotopes we're talking about, radioactive fallout, and here's a Canadian study of the iodine-129 at 220 million atoms per liter. There's rainfall by the liter, and this stuff with a 15 million year half-life. Despite the fact that it's weak, it's still an anthropogenic man-made isotope. Your body still treats it as a foreign object. So your body attacks it for the rest of your life with white blood cells, and every time it pulses energy in your body, it destroys your chromosomes, your cells, and your DNA. Your body has to try to repair that with white blood cells. So there's an immediate cause reaction for all the species. So you got one, the so-called radioactive neutron glass. You got 2, the Neptunium-239, then by proxy the Plutonium-239. You got the Xenon-133, which you can't have without the Krypton-85, for instance. You got 20 million particles of 131. These are absurd numbers. 131, you got 132, 133, 129. That's 8 confirmed isotopes. You had cesium-137 covered the entire planet. According to the French government, it was a million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. That's 9 isotopes. Cesium-137, by the way, and this was based upon 20-day models, covered the entire planet post-Fukushima. So we don't need any more of this raining on us, okay? This is not a game. This is not a left-right, extreme left, extreme right political ideology. This is your health, your loved one's health, the future of the planet, the ecosystem, the biota. Weekends off at Fukushima, not one homeless person could be seen, because that's the only people that they're going to go there. Academics are not going there. Former top international degenerate agency official, Fukushima is a catastrophe for every citizen of the world. If it's a catastrophe for every citizen, it has to be a catastrophe for every species, right? All 8 million. All right, here we go. Let's keep it. I just want to kind of get you into that fact that this is real. We're very aware of this stuff. We can provide the documentation for our assertions, because we only deal in facts. We don't deal in conjectures or opinions. So keep them to yourself. They're not welcomed here. Just deal in facts, right? So that's 9 isotopes that are recognized of radioactive fallout. So this is not an opinion, right? These assertions are not based upon fear-mongering or anything like that. We don't deal in that stuff. We're not interested. We're only interested in the facts. Here we go. So FBI raises terrorism, and I'm a very honest person, so please don't take offense. I'm just supplying you the information that we know, the legacy and everything else throughout history of this stuff, right? So when I say that the FBI raises terrorism alert, first off, do you know Israel is likely, certain elements in the Israeli military-industrial complex are most likely to stage false flags in America to get the public support and blame it on whichever enemy they got on their dinner plate at that moment of that year. And we know that the International Atomic Energy Agency is completely dishonest, and I showed you that earlier, right? For instance, the International Atomic Energy Agency says, and there's a lot more meeting this, saying they're on top of reactor 4, which is over there, nuclear meltdown, where 8 reactor cores and the fuel pools are gone too. So if the International Atomic Energy Agency is willing to certify that they're there, don't think for a second they won't lie about nuclear emissions from Israel or Iran. And I apologize if I get anybody's country's name butchered. It seems to be one of the things I'm very good at. So you can see Iran's going to attack these bases. These are the U.S., Israel, France, United Kingdom bases on Iran's borders for decades. So that country has already been under enormous amount of electronic warfare and everything else, right? And interference. There's a lot of operations from intelligence agencies raising dissent in Iran for many, many years, let alone it's been ramped up in many months. But Iran still hasn't come out and attacked anybody. We know Israel's been busy since they existed, same as the United States, for instance, and Iran, or France and the United Kingdom has the same attributes. And then we see headlines like this: U.S. launches second wave of strikes targeting Iran's nuclear site. Now, this was within 14 hours. The stars, the explosions you see in there, we know are the original waves, right? So the nuclear power plant, when I look deep into it, and that'll show up here as we're running through this stuff. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, if there wasn't a war, he would most likely be in jail from the consensus we're hearing from Israel and other reliable sources. Now, he's been in a position of authority for a very long time, so he's not naive at all. I think it's 4 decades. I got 2 clips I want to play.
Are fighting today the battle that the Maccabees fought. They fought for the survival of the Jewish people and the Jewish faith against an...
During the German Jewish thing, I think 50 million people worldwide died trying to protect them, right? Trying to save them. It's the same people that they're just destroying today, right? They don't have any... It's like France. France wouldn't exist if the Americans didn't go there and drive the enemy out, yet France is belligerent to America, and it does it under the guise of a single politician, right? These are very slippery characters you got to consider.
Enemy that wanted to extinguish us, wipe us out from the face of the earth. We were fighting our battle, but we were also fighting the battle of civilization.
I mean, that's an absurd statement that he's fighting the battle of civilization. Now, he's telling it to an audience that knows the difference. Everybody sitting there absolutely knows the difference. But it's also meant as an indoctrination for the non-religious, per se, population. They support 2 million Orthodox Jews. The Orthodox Jews don't work?
Because our civilization is based on the Judeo-Christian tradition. And if the Maccabees had failed, there'd be no Judaism, there would be no Judeo-Christian civilization. There would be no Maccabees.
There would
be no United States, there wouldn't be the...
There would be no Maccabees. That's a really interesting statement. Who's the U.S. ambassador, right? I have a video clip of Mike Huckabee I want to play, if you'll entertain me. He's being interviewed by Tucker Carlson a few days ago. And they're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, for instance. Because remember, the words Benjamin Netanyahu were just using as if he personally... Well, you'll figure it out. I guess I got to turn the volume on to make that work, do I? I'll be right back.
In the entirety of the world, there are about 16 million Jews total, and 8 million of them live here. The rest live mostly in New York or South Florida, and a few other places.
Okay.
So this is a small population of people. They have connection to this land, historically, biblically.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
If Bibi's family, we know they lived in Eastern Europe. There's no evidence they ever lived here. He's not religious.
But
in what sense?
How do we know that?
Do you have his family tree? No, we don't.
Do you?
He doesn't. So no one does. That's the point.
But
so how do we know that he has any connection to this land at all?
And if there has been a practice of Judaism and a connection to the language, the Bible, the land.
His ancestors didn't. He doesn't practice Judaism in any rigorous way. His ancestors didn't live here. They didn't speak the language, and there's no evidence they ever lived here. So on what basis does he have a right to
Very
be
much
here?
speaks the language. He has fought for the land. His family has fought
I feel
for
like
the
you're
land.
dodging a
No, I'm not
very
dodging.
obvious question, which is, where does this right come from? And the reason
I've
it's
given
meaningful
you that
is
answer.
because there are a lot of people in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West Bank, who, through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years. We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans, pre-Islam. We don't know that. A lot of them we know have been Christians for 2,000 years. They have less of a right to the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia or Poland. They're Eastern European. How does that work?
They're Jewish.
By what definition?
They're Jewish by their
But how do we know they have any
ethnicity.
connection
They're
to
Jewish
the Jews
by their
of the,
faith. They're
of the
Jewish
Bible?
by the connection to the language. Jewish by the connection to the Torah.
But how do we know that Bibi, specifically Bibi's ancestors, ever lived here? How do we know that?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
How do we know if the Prime
3,000
Minister of
years ago.
Israel's ancestors ever lived?
Maybe I could ask you, how do we know they didn't? I mean,
Well, it's on the basis of the claim that they did that all kinds of things happen. People are displaced. There's a money flow. I mean, it's a big question. A lot hangs on this. It's not some theoretical thing like, oh, you know, did my grandparents do this or do that? It's like, no, we have a right to be here because my ancestors were here. Okay, how do we know they were here?
I'm totally unable to process what you're trying to get at.
You can't process a simple question. Go back to BB.
Civilization of freedom, the respect for our common traditions, our common values, all of that would not happen if it weren't for those
Common traditions, common values. Well, the Iran don't have common traditions, common values. The Palestinians don't have common Come on, right?
5 brave brothers. They actually made the whole difference. So that spirit animates these brave soldiers that are here today and their comrades who are fighting in Gaza or in Lebanon or in Iran, wherever is necessary to not only
Comrades, isn't that what the Germans called their co-workers when they were conflict in Germany? Comrades? That's an interesting thing to say.
preserve the Jewish nation and the Jewish state,
Which has only existed for 60 or 70 years, right? So, like, isn't it not a rational thing to say?
but preserve civilization against the barbarians.
Everybody's a barbarian except for barbarians, I guess.
The barbarians are out there.
Everybody's your enemy. All you can do is trust.
They did a horrible thing to us on October 7th.
I mean, that's up for debate. Why did everybody on the wall not react to breaches of the walls for hours and hours? There's an endless amount of politicians have asked that question. And it's documented.
They'll never do it again. But they're doing
Never do what again? Nobody will ever do it. You built a wall to keep any immigrants out.
it against Jews in Sydney and Jews
Jews in Sydney? He's invoking Sydney. What the hell, man?
elsewhere in America.
This is justification now for what? For everything that they do that's illegal for every other country?
And elsewhere. This is our common battle against the barbarians.
So everybody's a barbarian.
We have wanted here.
Listen, there's bad groups of people for every culture, okay? There's criminals in every culture. Every culture has a massive amount of great people, a massive amount of criminals, murderers and serial killers and fraudsters and embezzlers, etc., etc. Every culture has that. You can't avoid that. So naming off Australia or incidences in America is emblematic of every culture. This is not an Israeli Jewish thing, my goodness.
We're winning it here, we'll win it everywhere.
He's just... He looks like he's high as a kite, eh?
חג שמח, חג חנוכה שמח לכולכם. תודה רבה לכם. תודה רבה.
Look at his sneaky eyes. My goodness, that was terrifying. Now, you got to realize he's been down this road. He's been saying that Iran will have a nuclear weapon for almost 40 years.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year.
2025.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up,
2018.
preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to.
Iran is so dangerous.
2015.
Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very
For an entire arsenal.
close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons. Next thing you'll see is a nuclear bomb in the World Trade Center. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Like, it's absurd that we're having this conversation. That this guy is still not in jail is absurd. It's absurd because it's clear the guy is a criminal. He's a bad element. And he's in a position of power. Just because he's in a position of power, as history has shown us, lots of people have ended up in The Hague and everywhere else because they were drunk on power. And Benjamin Netanyahu's extra drunk on power. We know that the Israeli lobby has corrupted the Senate and Congress of the United States and many other countries, including Canada, of course. Excuse me. What we know so far, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei was killed, Trump says, as Iran launches retaliatory strikes. Iran didn't start the war. Now, I'm not on anybody's side. I don't give a shit about any of them. They all go fuck themselves as far as I'm concerned. But if you're going to have nuclear meltdowns, then now you're a problem for everybody on the planet. You're no longer just an asshole wherever you do. You're a problem worldwide. Because radioactive fallout doesn't respect any borders. And we know from experience that you contaminate our drinking water, our air, our children our elderly are very vulnerable. What we know so far, Supreme Leader Khamenei, Ayatollah, I apologize because I'm going to butcher foreign languages. I just never was, I don't even speak my own language very fucking good, for God's sakes. Trump says as Iran launches retaliatory strikes. Well, what would he do? Like, what was it? He said, Israel said they launched preemptive strikes. What do you mean? Well, Iran wasn't going to attack Israel. How is that preemptive if the people that you launched strikes against weren't attacked? You have never had an army come and, like, you couldn't survive a real fight against Iran anyway. You wouldn't be there right now if the Americans and the British weren't there, which diapers for you. Iran has responded to the attack by launching missiles and drones towards Israel. Now, Iran had learned their lesson a couple of decades ago, and they have it's estimated at least 1,000 miles of underground tunnels and cities, like the Americans, of course, and that they have an absurd stock of old drones that they thought they were going to be using, suicide drones, and there's a few thoughts I got there that I should throw out there. are they doing this war now because robots are so close, right? And robots can be really quite a ferocious thing to deal with. The humanoid robots have advanced significantly in the last 4 or 5 months. That's going to double. It's already terrifying. Jump back spinning hook kicks, jump back side kicks, spinning back fist, mule kicks. They'll kill people if they connect with it, and they're extremely accurate. Are starting to show up. Very, very. You can't fight against a robot. Right now we have, Eric Schmidt, who's making an absurd amount of suicide drones every month for Zelensky, but he's also up to no good too. He was down to the World Economic Forum meeting recently, and I was saying to myself, if I was there, I would have got a piece of foam, cut it up like one of the bombs he's got on a Ukrainian drone, strapped to a cheap drone and chased him around because he was out walking around. I think it would have been really funny to watch Eric Schmidt running away from a drone down at the World Economic Forum. I can fucking guarantee if I was there, I would have done it. I wouldn't give a fuck if I went to jail for it. Some people need it done to him. I bet you he would have shit his pants too. Iran has responded to the attack, but they're going to show up clearly. They're probably already happening down there. And remember, Israelis were arrested 9 months ago carrying out, they had trucks full of drones that they were sending out across the country from inside the country, right? Iran has responded to attacks by launching, be sure it's happening again. Iran has responded to an attack by launching missiles, drones towards Israel. I think they struck 24 U.S. military bases in the east, which host the U.S. military bases, Bahrain. We got videos of Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE. And we know from the last conflict, the last time they were attacked by the U.S., Israeli, Britain, that they got sophisticated missiles. They got missiles with all kinds of decoys. So they got a missile come in, 18 decoys will launch. Israel will use up their defense mechanism on those missiles. And then another missile will come out of that and will actually has its own engine and will shoot in even quicker to its target. It's very successful, right? You listen to the intelligence agencies that are doing, Ray McGovern, for instance, and other people out there doing interviews nonstop, like Scott Ritter, for instance. And what you're seeing, I'll just play it as better for you, I guess, actually. What we're seeing is, it's better to do it in the videos first. I can tell. Let me bring up the videos. What we're seeing is something that played out many times over before, something we're already familiar with. It's a prepackaged narratives are out there everywhere. Like Benjamin Netanyahu that time. Invoking Australia, invoking a few Jewish centers that were attacked by radical skinheads or something, or like all the terrorist attacks in the United States post 9/11. Mother Jones had done a forensic investigative report on it, showing that they all had CIA, FBI handlers. Right, so it's pretty dubious. There's a lot of money in that stuff. This is what they do. It's in the book of The Art of War, for instance. I know Scott Ritter had, let me find that clip right there. It is. Scott Ritter was talking about the killing of the girls. So we know that he can make mistakes. Or was it on purpose? Because it's 100 virgins that died, schoolgirls, little schoolgirls. But if I does what Scott does, my video gets banned. So let's Scott do the same thing.
We have hit 2 children's schools. We have bombed 2 children's schools. 63 dead children, girls, little girls dead. Their mothers waiting for their daughters to come home. They sent their daughters to school on the belief that there wouldn't be a war because there was diplomacy going on, that there wouldn't be a war because Marco Rubio said he was traveling to the region on Monday. So they sent their girls to a school. The girls were in school, and we bombed it. And we bombed another one. There's 100 girls buried under that rubble being dug out now, girls that will not survive. This is the horror of war. But what I'm trying to say is, at least when I was involved in the bombing of the Amaria shelter, we did our damnedest to make sure that it was a military target. We were wrong, and it haunts you forever. What in God's name could lead us to bomb 2 girls' schools? I'm involved in this. I did this for a living. I know you don't make those mistakes.
Especially today, right? Especially today, you don't make those mistakes. They're so accurate, they can hit the fly, the hair on the balls of a fly. That's how accurate they... Strike on leadership's house. Well, they took out the whole block. And the bombs they're using, from what I'm seeing in Tehran, these are nasty damage. You're taking out multiple city blocks. You're not trying to get... You'll take out 1,000 people to get some politician is what they're up to, by the looks of it. On Saturday, a spokesman for the Iranian Red Crescent told local media 24 of Iran's 31 provinces were hit. That's of Saturday. This is Monday. So this was just day one, the 28th. That's what all the stuff I'm going to show you tonight is from the original day, because that's when that's one of your most important grabs, is screen capture grabs, is that day. And I didn't see any sense in doing. I put out a little video about it that I hope made some sense. There's no reason to think that war with Iran is necessary. This is the Washington Post, for goodness sakes, of all people. Trump criticizes the Iraq war. Now he's making the same mistakes. Well, there's a lot of speculation about what's really going on, and nobody will ever know, most likely. My big takeaway from the invasion of Iraq, that was a staged event. It was a staged war. Millions dead, millions missing, millions in refugee camps, millions unaccounted for, millions of orphans to get 10,000 Taliban. You destroyed Afghanistan, 28 million people. You sprayed the entire country with Dolran, depleted uranium, low-level radioactive material. It's only low-level compared to fuel rods, but it'll cause absurd amount of illnesses and diseases and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. Heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, congenital heart disease, congenital malformations for the children, which is what we're seeing, right, in Bushehr. 85% of the children were lumps of something that were supposed to be human. Disfigurement. None of the women, all the women went on birth control. Is that the United States should go to war only when it has to? The United States got 900 military bases worldwide. All the bases are loaded with nuclear, chemical, biological weapons, all the big gadgets, all the Black Hawk helicopters, all the jets. And so, the inventory is huge. They got to refresh the inventory all the time. As we've seen a couple of years, they put out a tender to get rid of 36 million Dolram, or depleted uranium munitions they were using for the A-10 Warthog. 36 million, because they had better bullets, 12-inch rounds. That's all the A-10 Warthog shoots, by the way, is dirty bombs, right? These are dirty bombs. Each one of these bullets is a dirty bomb. So I was worried about plant. I've done a comparison, of course, and that was the first 14, 16 hours. That was BBC, I think that map was from. How close was the United States-Israel city is the same name as the nuclear power plant. It turns out they're about 11 or 12 kilometers, something like that. Don't quote me. It was a city and the international airport. I mean, we're talking about all kinds of like Omar, Europe, the British, all the bases in the east here are being struck. The UN Atomic Watchdog, which of course we know lied about every facet of Fukushima, warned that a direct strike on the reactor would be extremely dangerous. No, it'd be a catastrophic event. It said that it not detected radiation increases. They also said all those journalists I showed you earlier were on top of Reactor 4 at Fukushima, but clearly Reactor 4 doesn't even exist. I'll show you the picture again. I'm still trying to understand. Now, tomorrow morning is the full blood moon, which is a big deal for the Jewish ideology, right? So the United Nations watchdog says these people were 150 feet above that stump there, right? Here's what it should look like. These are 190-foot buildings and 150 feet wide. You can see the guts are hanging out of Reactor 4 in Japan. At the top of the building was 9 reactor cores. They're gone too. There's 4 of the buildings. The same thing happened. These reactor cores are pure uranium, pure plutonium. Say Chernobyl was a graphite reactor. It was a new reactor. It was a small reactor. It didn't have decades of reactor cores at the top of the building. So each one of these reactor cores, because they're pure uranium, pure plutonium, they're huge reactors compared to Chernobyl, are at least 100 Chernobyls in plutonium, uranium, americium, plutonium, strontium, qualities and quantities. About 100 reactors. So you're talking about 3,600 reactor cores were lost when Japan melted down. It's hard to comprehend it, isn't it? They hit it up. They covered it. So why should you trust United Nations again? United Nations says that never happened. Why should we trust them? Like, I'm just being honest. Why should we trust them, right? Excuse me. Hello, everybody. Yeah, Colette has a good idea. What's a robot going to do against paint? So you can buy hydroponic systems, and you can buy pressurized paint. And so when the robot walks through your door, you can spray their entire body with paint. It's a great idea, isn't it? Only problem is with AI, in a few years' time, they might be running on radars on top of that. But it doesn't hurt the blind, I can tell you that much. So Reactor 4 and Reactor 3, there's 4 of these reactors, and you had around 9 reactor cores at the top of each of the buildings. That's all gone. They don't have a repository. They're storing everything at the top of the buildings. It's equal to around 3,600, 4,000 Chernobyls melting down at the one time in a 5-day period. We lost all those reactors in less than 5 days. This is why they 55 countries banned food in 14 prefectures in Japan. So the year after, if you want to think, you got to look at Japan statistics to appreciate what could happen in Iran or Israel if their plants are attacked. There was 865,000 cancers in the first year in Japan, for instance. Not everybody got health care. Not everybody was diagnosed. Cancer is not the only illness or disease or autoimmune deficiency or injury or illness that's going to manifest. Iran City was attacked with a nuclear plant. The situation was unknown about the plant. This is February 28. Russia condemns the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran as unprovoked act of armed aggression. And the Russian ambassador to the UN Security Council. I listened to what he had to say about that, and I was quite surprised at how candid he really was. Israel is used to long, hard wars, right? They're not used to wars where people fight back. They have no concept of that in their entire history until 9 months ago when Iran put a bit of a beating back on them. They have never experienced that before, and you can see, just instead of dancing in the streets like they normally do, they're all crying and hid away in shelters. We're not seeing Israeli troops on the ground in Iran. We're seeing them attacking air superiority, which is what they're known for. They don't have courage. Is not something the Israeli troops are known for. Most of them are people that are coming from other countries fighting for Israel. On top of that, the whole country has to serve an Israeli so-called military. So they're raised on being abusive to the Palestinians. So they don't see the Palestinians as people. They have always treated them. I mean, Israel has 5 million plus refugees from Palestine in concentration camps that they're surrounded with barbed wire fences and IDF soldiers with German shepherds. It's the most bizarre thing you've ever seen. And so Israel's allowed to fight for whatever they want, but people are not allowed to fight back. And they're not allowed to say no. Or you're a terrorist. If it does that, you're a terrorist. How many terrorists does it take? How many suicide bombers does it take to equal an aircraft carrier? I was thinking about that this morning when I seen a picture of the U.S. aircraft carrier in Israeli port. How many terrorists does it take to equal an F-16 fighter jet that the Israelis are flying? I wonder. How many suicide bombers does it take to equal an aircraft carrier? Or all the tanks in IDF's battalions that they didn't build anything, they got it all from the American taxpayers. Thank God for the American taxpayers. That's all Israel probably says every morning before they go to bed. And thank God for Israel taxpayer. Amen. Russia on Saturday condemned the U.S.-Israeli strike on Iran as a pre-planned, unprovoked act. And that was an interesting thing there. In 9 months ago, Israel and the United States attacked Iran when they were in negotiations. And what did they do again this time? They had people heading for negotiations. Meanwhile, you have Israel and Iran sneaks in and does the attack again. They don't even have the fortitude to fight them head on. They don't even have the fortitude. They have to do everything sneaky. They have to sneak around like... It's bizarre, right? They don't have any fortitude, any courage. They can't garner any respect from anybody because they do stuff like that, right? So how can you respect these people when their tactics are the coward tactics? There's no fortitude. They're not stoic or something, right? They're cowards. They attack. Look over here, and then they smack you in the back of the head. And they say, you're a terrorist, so I smacked you in the back of the head, so therefore I got the high ground. These are things you got to consider, Where do you stand in that paradigm? And again, Trump says Iran's supreme leader is dead. It wasn't even declared war. The only way he said, he couldn't hide from us. Well, if that was true, why did you have to sneak attack him, right? Is that a stupid question? Because you don't see anybody asking that question for some reason. And so countries that have military bases in the Middle East are now, the drone warfare, we see in Ukraine, what they're doing in Ukraine is absurd. It's absurd. You got people who don't know what they're doing, who are jacked off the street or put in a uniform, and then they're sent out to the front line where one of Eric Schmidt's drones will chase them around until they They get sick of it and they just run in and blow them up. The suicide drone has now gone into madness. Let me bring up some of that stuff. They got drones flying around, chasing people down.
Who is in need of an antipsychotic? He seemed pretty crazy.
They got drones going around, chasing people down and just blowing them up. Even if they're wounded, they'll send in another drone to blow them up. Even though which is against convention, right? Who's using this over in the Middle East right now, I wonder? This is Eric Schmidt's drones. I mean, everybody should get a drone wherever Eric Schmidt goes to next. Everybody should have not a real drone, don't hurt him or something like that, but just get in the air and look at him for a bit. So he gets to feel what all these victims feel every day. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying he deserves it done to him, doesn't he? He's killed over 1 million people. His drones have. Just chase people down and blow them up. That's the new... Toy with them a little bit, right? Toy with them a little bit. A lot of them will just shoot themselves and stuff like that, too. How do you fight an enemy like this? How do you fight an enemy that hangs around and gets wait for the perfect moment, and another drone will come in if you're moving at all and finish you off? These are the people we're talking about. They're completely unhinged. They've lost their way as a human. They no longer have human attributes. This is cruelty beyond concept. How many of you out there who thinks I'm wrong would want to be that person right now? None of you, right? How many of the detractors would get out there with a gun knowing that drone is going to show up in the next half an hour? None of you, right? How is this war? This is not war. This is madness. This is not even supposed to happen. How did we ever get to this stage? How did we become this complacent where this is now okay? It's okay because it's over there. You really fucking think it's not going to show up over here? Are you really that stupid? Are you really that fucking idiotic? You think that's not going to show up on your children or yourself or your friends or your families in the very fucking near future? Huh? Huh? Are you that naive? Are you that fucking gullible? You think that now that that's acceptable? We used to be terrified of a bullet that can shoot around a corner. That used to fucking terrify us, right? Not that long ago. Now you got a bullet that blows up and just fucks with you until you're bored, and then probably blows your legs off, and then another one shows up and watches you for a while, and then you'll be there like, please, and it's just, boom. You know, these are fucking nuts. I apologize for swearing, but it's fucking nuts. This is nuts. Tell me that's not nuts, for goodness sakes. Hang on. How is that not nuts, see? It's the same thing where Benjamin Netanyahu, the greatest army in the world, but they got to sneak in and blow you up and kill you because you can track them anywhere. They can't escape the people that they got tracked them no matter what, so we got them. Well, if that was true, why blow him up like that? Why not do it to his fucking face? Get him on the phone and say, look at your window. See that? That's going to kill you in about 2 seconds. They've probably done that too. Death occurred after a joint U.S. and Israeli aerial bombardment to target Iran's military and governmental sites. So they took out all administration right away, so why continue to bomb a city of 9 million people? 9 million, half of them are children. Why terrorize a city? Why not the military installations to get it over with? That's what, by the way, that's what Iran was doing to Israel 9 months ago, right? They were attacking their military sites. 97% of their strikes were military sites. Israel attacks the population. They don't give a fuck about anything or anybody. They just want death and destruction. They started off by killing 100 virgin girls, right? Primary young kids that go into primary schools and that in kindergarten. Killed 100 of them with precision weapons. That wasn't an accident. That was a sacrifice. Tonight is the blood moon, the full blood moon tomorrow morning, rather, about 12 hours or less than 12 hours. That's what's a very, very important religious event. And President Trump gave Iran until the guards and everybody until March the 3rd, which is the day of the religious blood moon. You had a wax moon, a full wax moon a few days ago on the 28th. You had 6 planets lined up at the same time. The president also said heavy and pinpoint bombing was to continue uninterrupted through a week or longer. Like, first off, it's Iran's going to disappear or Israel's going to disappear. Iran's not going anywhere now until Israel is gone. And Israel has huge military jets and drones and satellites and incredible system. Benjamin Netanyahu has been quoted yesterday on video as saying he's been waiting 40 years for this day. Yeah, 40 years saying that Iran is going to have a bomb. 40 years we've been listening to that fucker say that Iran is going to have a bomb. They were unable to avoid intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems. Well, if that was the case, why did you sneak attack them? Why didn't you just laugh about it on public television? Yeah, we're going to kill him any minute here. Now, hang on, we'll give you confirmations. You can't get away from us. Do you hear, is there Alamani, Kamani, whatever your name is, my apologies. The assassination of the second leader of the Islamic Republic has no designated successor. Well, what happens is, right, the Security Council in Iran will just appoint the next guy down the list, right? Who's vehemently for having nuclear weapons. Now, it's a good time to have a war right now. We have all the whales are emaciated worldwide. All the seabirds are starved. The food chain is broken worldwide post-Fukushima. Hundreds rally in the U.S. Embassy not about to support military strikes. Hundreds, half of them are probably Israelis, for fuck's sakes. An Iran oil shock darkens prospect for all money in the world. So, in my video that came out the other day, that on the 28th, when this all happened, was a prediction I'm sure many people made, and which is common sense, that we're going to have inflation through the ceiling now, because the Straits of Hormuz, you're talking about a significant amount of that oil is for North America products. Then you're going to end up with inflation because you're going to drive up the price of a barrel of oil by $200, say $300, some analysts are saying. Canada's pro-U.S. stance in Iran attack carries security risks. Yeah, well, Israel needs to carry out a few false flag events in the United States to get the American people behind. That's the standard routine, right? In fact, the United States military will carry out attacks against itself so that they can get support from Congress. Congress will tell them, you need to attack U.S. We need an attack disguised as Iran so that we can allocate whatever budget you're looking for. Lots of politicians there. They'll tell you that's how it's done. Canada's support for U.S. strikes against Iran could come with security risk. Yeah, I guess so. Canada, government-backed American military. Now, just fucking day before they were like, fuck Trump. Day before they were like, fuck Trump. The day before they was like, fuck U.S. We're going to suck China's dick and we're going to get everything we want a lot cheaper. And boom. We stand right alongside of Trump, and God bless Trump. Two-Face. Airspace closed, airlines halt flights as U.S. That's kind of when I realized, yeah, this is real. So I was grabbing these headlines originally when I realized what was happening. And I was just grabbing it to kind of put the story together so I'd have some kind of context that made sense if I decided I was going to do this video and tell it. Oil prices are already up 12% since last month. They're expected to trade higher. Well, as the Russian-Ukraine war winds down, they need another conflict to keep the inflation going, right? That's, the price of all commodities worldwide skyrocketed and continue to stay high. And even when the price of gas came down, they never withdrew the price increases of all the commodities worldwide, did they? Like aluminum or steel or iron or carbon or... Oil prices are already up 12%. Airspace closes, halts flights. So my heart goes out to all the victims down there. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I think that's how you pronounce it. My apologies if I butcher any names. Israel can't maintain a long war with Iran. Israel can't do any fucking war without the United States and Great Britain and other countries giving them free everything. They're fucking leeches, right? A former university professor has written extensively on Iran, Israel, and the relationship between religion and politics in the Middle East. I'm writing from the bomb shelter in my apartment building, which is just outside of Tel Aviv. This is a Jew. People are panicked buying food, mineral water, and other wartime staples. Wartime staples. Around the country, fights have been breaking out between customers battling over cheese, milk, and eggs. Well, they're not fighting each other. They're fighting anybody that is there working for them from other countries. No one knows the scope of Iran's reach. And while fisticuffs erupts in supermarkets, the general population appear to be resigned to the inevitability of the war. Most Israelis seems happy to support the bombings, which is absurd. Well, that's what they do over there. They all work for the military at one point or another in their lives, right? It's absolute madness to speak out against the military there. So if you don't agree with it, then people are going to fuck you up. You're not going to get supplies or water or bedding. You got to play along with everybody. Prime Minister criminal, the guy who should be in jail instead of destroying more countries, Benjamin Netanz. What was his original name? He took that name after their family moved there, right? Millie something, was it? That's not his original name. I got the video there of him with his way back in the day. His name wasn't always Netanyahu. Claimed that the war began to free the Iranian people, which is absurd, as if Israel give a fuck about the Iranians. Netanyahu can then say the purpose of the attack is to eliminate the threat to Israel, and Israelis will nod sagely. They'll just go along to get along because you're not allowed to speak out. For 2 decades, the Prime Minister is speaking about the threat that Iran supposedly presents to Israel's existence. Israel can and will support war for whatever reason they're given. As an Israeli, a Jew in Israel, 2.5 years of genocidal fighting in Gaza have inoculated Israeli society against empathy and peace. That's one way to look at it, I suppose. And they're not allowed to say anything. Netanyahu and Zamir will continue to speak of Iran's imminent plans to destroy Israel, which is a meaningless phrase. The Israeli political establishment, as well as the general population, completely caved Netanyahu, with opposition leaders proclaiming that now, due to the war, there's no such thing as a political opposition. Oh, really? right? That's what I'm talking about. The endless war means you can't arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, who would have been arrested. The minute he's not in that position where he has immunity, he's going to be arrested. That's the consensus I'm seeing out there anyway. Military, too, has capitulated. It desperately needs a win as it faces its failures to vanquish Hamas. And Israel and the United States will likely begin to drift apart sooner rather than later. They won't drift apart. Israel will just wring the United States till there's nothing left there to give to Israel. In fact, a lot of the Israeli soldiers are getting veterans compensation instead of the U.S. veterans. FBI raises terrorism alerts over fears of retaliation or false flags. Massive U.S. attack on Iran unlikely to produce regime change in Tehran. I agree with that. They've always said the same thing. They've always seemed to follow through on what they say. Is that they don't want a war, but if you bring it, not that you killed their supreme leader, you murdered him, I should say. They got no choice now. That's their ideology now is to attack whoever attacked him, right? It's fucking stupid no matter how we look at it, but it is what it is. U.S. launches, and that was interesting, U.S. and Israel launches a second wave of strikes targeting Iran's nuclear sites, and they show you a destroyed building. So that's quite worrisome when we see stuff like that. It looks like they're saying they're attacking Iran. They're attacking Iran to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon, right? That's what they're saying. So how the fuck are they going to do that without destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities? Right? Iran has neutron source facilities. They have 4 so-called scientific research reactors. Right? They have to make their own enriched uranium for their nuclear plant because they can't import anything in. Right? So they have that technology. And as part of the United Nations, allegedly, they're entitled to have it. U.S. launched a second wave of strikes targeting Iran's nuclear sites. The radioactive fallout covers the planet in less than 20 days. That's all the academic papers that we've covered over the last couple of decades. That's what was quantified with research, right? The United States and Israel have launched a fresh wave of strikes on cities near nuclear facilities across Iran. They have to destroy Iran's nuclear sites, including their nuclear plants. They really Trump says he can do this in 4 weeks or so. They got 200, not counting everything else they're using, right? They got 200 fighter jets, for instance. You know, there's all kinds of covert operations going on throughout Iran with U.S. and Israeli sponsors. It is unclear if any of these facilities were hit in the attacks or if anyone was killed or injured. Iran on Saturday conducted a retaliatory strike attack after U.S.-Israel launched a barrage of strikes. A lot of Israeli media is claiming that Iran attacked them. They got no choice but to defend themselves. But they attacked Iran first. That's fucking clear as daylight. They can lie all they want, but that's clear as daylight. So do they have a right to complain if they're attacked? I don't think they do. Hitting American bases across the Middle East and several civilian targets. No, Israel and the United States, they found all the key people that they disliked, and they assassinated them. There was no declaration of war at this point, right? They're still not, certainly. They assassinated them, and then they claimed that they have superior this, superior that. They have no problem defeating Iran, which apparently is not true because Iran has taken out all kinds of their bases in the Middle East. Right, and the bizarre thing people call a media for some reason. Iranian missiles breached the Israeli Iron Dome. Now we know from 9 months ago that Iran, which showed quite a lot of restraint, if you ask me, because they can send over 2,000 a day for about 100 days straight. Israel's defenses can't keep up with it. And Iran was targeting military installations, military entities, and still are. Israel is not. Israel is destroying a city of 9 million people. That's terrorism in every sense of the word, too, in the United States. It's completely uncalled for, right, to terrorize 9 million people. You got your you took out the administration for Iran. So if he does that, then it should be common sense that they take you out too, right? If they take out Trump and his administration, take out Israel and their administration, people shouldn't be upset about it because that's what was done to them. Right? So all I'm saying is, you can't use targeted attacks when you already targeted attacked them as a justification for using advanced weapons. They're attacking the population, not attacking the military installation. There's not, 200 jets and the sorties they're flying and the amount of sorties they're already flown. And so there's not combat missions per se, right? So they're attacking population, they're attacking infrastructures, and that's starting to happen back to them, which has never happened in their history before. They don't know what to do with that, right? They've never been attacked back strategically. And apparently Iran allegedly, and I believe them, can keep up several hundred missiles a day in Israel, for instance, for 2 years, 3 years. They have huge facilities. And while they have a lot of dummy facilities for the military to attack on top of that. Iranian missiles breached Iron Dome, landing in Tel Aviv, killing a woman in her 40s. This is really interesting. 3 others were hospitalized, including a man around 40. She had a woman in her 40s, a man in his 40s. 3 others were hospitalized who suffered serious injuries from shrapnel, and a woman in her 90s. And in total, 20 were wounded. So who were the other 20? Why were these put on a pedestal? What about the other 20? Right, they were trying to invoke sympathy for an assassination that they carried out, and a retaliation from an assassination they carried out. Hospitalization, and they're terrorizing 9 million people in just one city alone, and that's not the only city they're attacking. Tehran is 9 million people. So 25 people is no comparison to 9 million people that are now going to be post-traumatic stress disorder for the rest of their lives, and you're destroying their entire city of 9 million people and the infrastructures. So they've got a lot of arrogance complaining as far as I'm concerned. It's hubris to even... You're terrorizing 9 million people just in one city alone with 200 jets dropping absurd ordnance and taking out entire city blocks. You have no right to criticize anybody. Let me see here. So Russia evacuated their plant because they don't trust Israel and the United States. Here we go. Distance to the plant, why a precise number is not available. I was trying to work out the distance through AI. I'm getting better at it. I'm still not very good at this stuff. But anyway, I think it was around 11... by the crow, if there's any crows left down there, around 11 kilometers. U.S. and Israel strikes put Iran's enrichment sites in focus. So any releases from these nuclear sites are catastrophic, particularly because you're using huge ordnance. And so if it's a site, you hit the fuel pools are extremely vulnerable and you have decades of reactor cores. This is a catastrophic event for humanity. And if the Dimona plant, which was used as a breeder reactor for weapons for Israel, you can imagine how much fuel is stored on that site, how vulnerable that site actually is. If Iran wants to hit that, Israel is not going to be able to stop it. The United States is not going to be able to stop it. Great Britain is not going to be, not so Great Britain. Britain's freaked up. On the Israeli front, Prime Minister, and now, they brought in millions of Muslims into Canada in the last couple of years alone. And the majority of them don't like us, don't speak the language, and are very, very suspect. And they're put on a pedestal. They're given all kinds of money to survive. They're given money for housing, food, for vehicles. They can get a loan for a house within 6 months. They're given an enormous amount of money for the first year on top of that, and then more support for the rest of the... We're seeing that in Australia, in Great Britain, in the United States, in New Zealand, and in France. We've seen a lot of, we've never seen anything like this before, being flooded with the Muslims trying to make you sick of them, I suppose, so you don't have any sympathy for when they went and slaughtered the Muslims in the East, right? But Iran, despite what it's set up to do, it's going to be... I mean, if the United States and Israel keeps pounding Iran for the next 4 weeks alone, there's not going to be much left of Israel or Iran. Right? So nobody knows how this is going to play out. It doesn't look good. It looks like a few million people might die in the next 4 weeks. On the Israeli front, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's supposed to be in jail, stated that the joint operation in the United States aims to stop Iran's murderous regime. I think most people would describe American Israel as a murderous regime. And can articulate it too. These statements underscore how nuclear facilities regarded as critical infrastructure in Tehran's program are seen as strategic pressure points that both capitals have under scrutiny. Tehran's 9 million people, man. If you kill the administration, if you kill the leadership, then why terrorize 9 million people with jets flying around their city? Alone is terrorism, right? The A-10 Warthog, if it's there, it's only shooting doloram, depleted uranium, low-level radioactive materials. The Natanz uranium enrichment complex remains a critical pillar of the enrichment efforts. So if that... Now, Iran is saying that site got hit. The degenerate agency from UN, which is a military-industrial complex, right? They got 195 militaries. They're supporting Israel through one of their proxies. They said it reached 60% purity. And if it did, I'm assuming it was to produce a breeder reactor for because they're doing this with Russia, obviously, right? To have fuel for other reactors. I mean, the whole nuclear industry is just completely out of control. Fordow underground enrichment facility that was hit last time. And I can't pronounce these names. Isfahan nuclear technology, that was hit too, I believe. The heavy water reactor that can produce plutonium usable in weapons. Under past agreement, the original reactor core was disabled, but plans for redesign and restart could make it sensitive in the future. But how much material does it still have on site is the question. Iran's capital hosts research reactors and related facilities to support scientific work connected to the nuclear programs. And while these do not directly produce weapons-grade material, a role in training, testing, technology development gives them strategic values. So Israel and the United States and Great Britain are going to have to destroy all of this to ensure that Iran. And the nuclear power plant, they're not going to, how are they going to occupy that? That provides power for Tehran. I think, don't quote me on that particular one. I imagine it does, 12 million or 9 million people. Under agreement, spent fuel is exported for reprocessing to Russia, right? Well, not a primary target, but they haven't got it all out there. I'm not sure how that plays out, actually, so I shouldn't say anything. They got a reactor core, let's put it that way. That's enough to contaminate the entire planet too many times over in 20 days. Iran operates has operated at least 4 research reactors. Main research reactors, Tehran Research Reactor, the TRR, the IR-40 heavy water reactor, the Arak, and a small MNSR type reactor at the university site Bonab. You can see here a miniature neutron source reactor. So, but like the high level fuel is sent back to Russia, but not all the radioactivity, just the high level fuel. So there's an incredible amount of nuclear, high level nuclear waste that is splitting atoms in these facilities somewhere. And several small neutron sources. So then you got the peculiars of each of these right there for you. The Australian, these Iranian nuclear sites may be targeted. So there's a lot of connotations of that site getting targeted, these nuclear facilities getting targeted. Okay. Well, the biggest thing is the nuclear waste right now. That's the biggest one because your body attacks, if you get an atom in your body attacks it every day for the rest of your life with white blood cells and builds a tumor around it. So brutal to your health consequences. And this is true for all species. If the United States and Israel moves to strike Iran's nuclear facilities, it would represent a major escalation with far-reaching implication. Well, you contaminate the entire friggin' planet. Will likely be at the top of any target list. So there's enough information I found just in the first day that strongly suggest they will hit the nuclear sites at some point coming up, if not already. And we know the International Atomic Energy Agency will lie about it because they lied about Fukushima, right? As I showed you that evidence earlier in the video. And the IAEA, they'll quote other nuclear entities, right, as their sources. And those sources are all UN sources. IRPA, UNSCLEAR, the IPRC, IAEA, they're all UN, right? So when they quote other sources, they're all on it's the same people on each of these panels. Same 100 gray hair people that are making decisions that destroy the health of everybody and all the species. Secondary sites would also factor in calculation for their role in fuel cycle potential plutonium pathways. Targeting these sites would be intended to disrupt Iran's ability to enrich uranium rapidly and to curtail infrastructure that could support weaponization. They don't need any of it. Russia will be happy to give them some, I'm sure. Such action would risk broad regional escalation, possible retaliation against civilian military targets, disruption of global energy markets. As diplomatic efforts continue and military postures intensify, the fate and vulnerability of these nuclear facilities remains central, because we're very early into this equation. Any shift towards kinetic action against these sites would mark a pivotal moment in decades of nuclear standoff. It's madness. Attacking the nuclear sites, which is because everything they're saying is a connotation as far as that, right? That's an acceptable targets. And because we know how radioactive fallout covers the whole planet in less than 20 days, no matter where it starts, because you're talking about a huge volume. And radioactive fallout is the only element that'll make a plume that will actually cover the entire planet in a continuous plume. There's no other pollution that has that particular attribute. And so within 20 days, we can all be sleeping, breathing, drinking, washing in radioactive fallout. And we already are because of Japan and 80 years of emissions from the nuclear industry. But a nuclear meltdown is different because of the inventories, the volumes. So this is a warning. YouTube will probably take the video down. My backup channel is on BitChute. You'll find it in the descriptions under my videos. There's been no shortages of U.S. military operations against Iran or Iranian forces in the Gulf since 1979. There's 40 days of public mourning announced in Iran, so he's a murderer, right? So he's actually a murderer because they killed him. And he swore vengeance against Israel. And 90 plus million people are being brutalized because they conquered Gaza for the most part. They still haven't completely conquered it, but they knocked down every building, every tree, every house. They polluted all the water, everything else there. They barbarized that population since they got Israel. They stole every piece of land they could. And Trump basically says they're going to replace the government in Tehran before they give up. So the only way you're going to replace the government of Tehran in a religious fanatical society like Israel or Iran, for instance, the only way you're going to replace the government is boots on the ground. You're going to have to destroy all the infrastructure in the entire country. Benjamin Netanyahu was bragging about it yesterday. He'd been waiting 40 years for this moment, 40 years to destroy Iran, get rid of them once and for all. The enemy of humanity. No, the enemy of his pocket bank account, right? Like Tucker Carlson says, there's no evidence he was born there, that his family lived there. He's an imported, and he's taken this narrative because of the religious, even though he's not religious, right? And weaponized it, and then he has run that country now. Now everything has to happen because he's getting old, and now's the time. So we don't know how this is going to play out, but it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be any fun for anybody, including Israelis or anybody in the Middle East or anybody else or any species on the entire planet. And there's a great video that James Lucid has put out about radioactive food. And it's called Man vs. Becquerel, Last War, 5-minute mega Becquerel seafood. It's a fascinating little video to watch. And he's not wrong. It's the scary part about this is he's not wrong. We're going to play that, and that'll be tonight. I probably will be back tomorrow night, same time. Seeming as United States and Israel bombed, sacrificed 100 virgin schoolgirls, could a nuclear site also get bombed? Yeah, it's pretty realistic, Dana. I know. Believe me, I know. So we're going to play this song here. Man vs. Becquerel. This is such a great video. Their primitive data center build out. That's friggin' fascinating, man. And this one. And the A for Atoms. There's something really good about that video. And it ain't the rabbit with the antlers, even though that's super important and it's appropriate. We're going to play this video, and hugs for everybody. See everybody on the next show. We're trying to get back into it, and I've been down for about a month. We got hurt, and so I'm doing pretty good, but I'm still not back at all. Oh, and a shout out to James, same as this music site, by the way, who sacrificed another almost $300 donation. And you can too in the description. Bless your heart, James. And awesome videos, my friend. We'll see everybody on the next one. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night. Take care.
Tons are at 102.
That's right, well below the safety limit, and they're gorgeous tonight.
Good to know. Thanks.
Well below the safety limits.
Snow crab, 240 becquerels per kilogram. Cocktail shrimp, 180. Oysters, 95. Steamed mussels, 110. Grilled salmon, 60. Seared tuna, 70.
All right, this is the 5-minute mega becquerel platter. 5 minutes on the clock, and I have to make everything on this tray disappear. Clean ice, no scraps, no shells. We've got poached canary rockfish stuffed with crabs, sashimi-grade tuna, a tower of snow crab legs, buttery lobster tail, seared scallops, steamed clams and mussels, a little seaweed salad, and fresh uni. That's a lot of radiance for one sitting. If I crush it and do a lot of work, I'm still a blow club thing. This is the spread right here. 5 minutes of work between me and history. Hat locked, hands ready, deep breath. All right, timer's live. First move, right there. We'll open with the scallops. Let's get after it. This is a fork extension to Zazu. The Ecologens is 9,000 becquerels per kilogram. Warm-up round. How's it up? Clams and mussels, 194,000 becquerels per kilogram. Keep it moving.
The tuna fillet looks beautiful, perfect sear, still nice and pink in the middle. Ready for this one. Let's dig in. We go shuai up the tuna fillet. So 499,000 becquerels per kilogram. This one's a jump.
Next plate, snow crab. You gotta earn this one. Big round. Let's go. Snow crab, 2,000 becquerels per kilogram. Work round.
Next plate, lobster tail. Ready for the numbers?
Lobster tail, 443,000 becquerels per kilogram. Big jump.
Little reset round. Seaweed salad. Yeah, this counts. Let's go. Got him. Let's reset.
One 139,000 becquerels per kilogram.
stuffed canary rockfish, house favorite. This is the signature round. Canary rockfish, 886,000 becquerels per kilogram. Final boss.
Here's the finisher. Look at those. Gotta handle these with respect.
695,000 becquerels per kilogram. Closing it out. Five minutes. $1 million becquerels. Done.